Welcome to the California Capitol Building Crash Course. The California State Capitol Building is also a museum. Remember everything about the history of California that you learned in 4th grade? Most people only remember the model of a mission that they made out of popsicle sticks, and maybe a little about the gold rush and the native tribes, but not much else. So here's a little refresher. For thousands of years, California was inhabited by a very diverse group of indigenous tribes until the first Europeans began arriving in the 16th century. Eventually, the Spanish made the largest inroads of colonization, and they established many forts and missions in California. Unfortunately, Europeans brought with them communicable diseases such as measles and diphtheria, for which the indigenous people had no natural immunity. Death from these illnesses, along with the overwhelming influences of Spanish government and society, greatly reduced the indigenous population. In 1821, California came to be under Mexican rule after Mexico fought for independence from Spain. Also during the 1820s, trappers and settlers from the U.S. and Canada began to arrive in Northern California. Mexican rule of California was fraught with instability. In 1846, a frustrated group of American settlers in Sonoma rebelled against Mexican rule. The rebels raised an early version of our California bear flag over Sonoma in defiance of Mexico, hence the name Bear Flag Revolt. Not long after the Bear Flag Revolt, the Mexican-American War began, and in 1848, California came to be under the control of the United States. It was not until 1911 that the bear flag was adopted as our official state flag, as we know it today. The white background of the flag is a symbol of purity. The red stripe stands for courage. The grizzly bear represents strength and independence, and the red star on the flag symbolizes the fact that California, like Texas, became a state without ever having been a U.S. territory. The Great Seal of California also contains important symbols of our state, including 31 stars because we're the 31st state, the state motto Eureka, meaning I found it in Greek, the Sierra Nevada mountains and Pacific Ocean representing our state's natural beauty, a sheaf of wheat proclaiming our agricultural wealth, Minerva or Athena, the goddess of wisdom, who was born as an adult and not a baby, so she symbolizes our political birth as a state without first being a territory. And of course, the grizzly bear, our state animal. The discovery of gold in California in 1848 not only started the gold rush, but also a rush to make California a state. The gold rush gave our state the nickname the Golden State and led to the choice of the golden poppy as our state flower. California became the 31st state on September 9, 1850. When California was part of Spain and Mexico, Monterrey was its capital, and the state's first constitutional convention took place in Monterrey's Colton Hall in 1849. The first California state constitution was written in Monterey, and it was bilingual in both Spanish and English. Our first governor was Peter Burnett, who, like President Lincoln, was a self-educated attorney. Burnett had traveled to the west from Tennessee to seek his fortune. He failed at farming, but later prospered with some gold mining and land deals, and he became involved in early California state politics. The capital of the U.S. state of California moved 5 times in its first 4 years as a state. The first meeting of the California legislature took place in San Jose in December of 1849. A newly built hotel served as the first Capitol building from 1849 to 1851. Vallejo, or Vallejo in Spanish, became the second state capital from 1852 to 1853. The land and money to build the Capitol building there was donated by General Mariano Vallejo. Benicia was the third state capital from 1853 to 1854. A building newly constructed for Benicia's City Hall was given to the state legislature to use as the Capitol building. Sacramento became the permanent state capital in 1854. There were 2 different buildings used in Sacramento for the state government from 1854 to 1869, when the present Capitol building first came into use by our state government. The present Capitol building was constructed over 14 years, from 1860 to 1874. The Capitol building was remodeled 3 times over the years to accommodate a growing state government. From 1975 to 1982, the building was restored as much as possible to its original historical character and was retrofitted for earthquake safety. The restoration project aimed to bring the Capitol building back to its original elegance and to create a working museum for visitors. Today's California Capitol building remains the primary workplace for our state government. It includes the chambers for both legislative houses of California, the Senate and the Assembly, as well as the offices of California's governor and lieutenant governor. The California State Capitol Museum includes not only the building, but its beautiful grounds, named Capitol Park, with its 40 acres of lawns, gardens, memorials, and even a trout pond. Many of the exotic species of plants in Capitol Park were planted over 100 years ago, and today there are over 450 varieties of plants in the park. On a stroll through Capitol Park, you will find a camellia grove that is a living memorial to the early builders of California, and the World Peace Rose Garden. There are also commemorative seals honoring the California Indians and Mexican Americans. There's an Indian grinding rock and a life-size statue of Father Junipero Serra with a map of California's 21 missions at its base. There are memorials for California firefighters and peace officers, as well as several memorials honoring military veterans of California. There's the bell from the battleship USS California, and the Civil War Memorial Grove, planted in 1897, with saplings from famous Civil War battlefields. Inside the Capitol building, keep your eyes peeled for California's symbols, especially the grizzly bear faces and paws that are incorporated into the architecture, particularly the staircase and railings. You can't miss the governor's office. There's a life-size sculpture of a grizzly bear in front of the door. Be sure and look down occasionally, too, at the beautiful floors, including California poppy mosaics, the Eureka tiles, and the geometric mosaic pattern of the second-floor rotunda. The gorgeous decorations inside the rotunda can be seen from the first floor just above the life-size statue entitled Columbus's Last Appeal to Queen Isabella, but the best view is on the second floor. In the hallways of the Capitol Annex, you will find window displays for each of California's counties. In the East Annex, there are mural panels depicting the 5 elements of California's power and growth: agriculture, industry, natural resources, transportation, and culture. In the upper floors, you can visit the legislative chambers of both the Senate and Assembly, which have been restored to appear as they did in the early years of the building, including desks from the 1860s. The public may observe legislative sessions from seats in the galleries. Art collections at the Capitol include portraits of U.S. presidents and California governors, as well as murals, paintings, and sculptures nearly everywhere you go. The Capitol Museum has an impressive historic flag collection of over 50 historic flags that were carried during the Civil War, Spanish-American War, and World War I. Keep an eye out for the 4 flags from this collection that are on display this year. Also worth seeing are the historic rooms, which are decorated with antique furnishings and artifacts and include rooms that were used by the Governor, Secretary of State, and Treasurer from the years 1870 to 1910. In the basement, there's a small gift shop that is worth a visit. There are also a cafeteria and a theater that shows short films about the Capitol. If you get a chance to join one of the free tours, please do. The docents are very knowledgeable and don't mind if you stop and listen in on a tour that is already in progress. When you see how beautiful our California State Capitol building is, you will be glad that photography is allowed.
California, land of honey, fruit, and wine.